I've described in other videos the death of Geli Rabaul, Hitler's half-niece, in Hitler's Munich apartment on the 18th of September 1931, killed with his own weapon. Now I'd like to consider the role played by Father Bernhard Stempfle, a Catholic priest. And this is one of the most troubling and revealing threads in the aftermath of Geli Rabaul's death. Father Bernhard Stempfler was a man whose proximity to Hitler's household and private life made him uniquely dangerous once he began talking too much. Stempfler was a priest and a journalist. He belonged to Munich's ultra-right Catholic press circles. He'd been an early supporter of Hitler and had even collaborated on Mein Kampf, allegedly editing drafts and correcting Hitler's grammar. This alone placed him in the small circle of people who moved in and out of Hitler's personal space during the 1920s. But Stempfler's significance goes far deeper than editorial work. He had direct access to the apartment at Prinzregentenplatz and was familiar not only with Hitler but with Geli Rabaul herself. Through shared Catholic acquaintances, he became aware of the atmosphere inside Hitler's private life and of the intense, controlling relationship Hitler maintained over Geli. Several sources indicate that Stempfler heard about, or possibly witnessed, the increasingly violent quarrels between them, including the confrontation before her death. One widely repeated account, never officially contradicted by party insiders at the time, states that Stempfler actually rebuked Hitler for his treatment of Geli, warning him that his behaviour bordered on cruelty and scandal. Bernhard Stempfler was born on the 17th of April 1882 in the Bavarian town of Partenkirchen, which you can see here. He entered religious life in the Order of St. Augustine, later transferring into diocesan service as a secular priest. Although ordained as a Catholic cleric, Stempfler was equally known as a journalist, editor, and polemicist within Munich's turbulent right-wing press scene of the 1920s. Stempfler became a prominent figure in the Catholic, anti-Bolshevik and anti-Semitic press, writing for and eventually helping to lead the newspaper Münchner Beobachter, a publication with strong nationalist and Völkisch leanings. By the early 1920s, he moved in circles overlapping with the rising Nazi movement. Although formally not a member of the National Socialist German Workers' Party, he shared many ideological positions with early Nazi supporters, and he became an informal advisor to Hitler's entourage. After the failed Munich beer hall putsch of 1923, when Hitler was in prison and writing Mein Kampf, Stempfler played an unusual and still somewhat disputed role. Multiple contemporary sources claim they helped edit portions of Mein Kampf, smoothing Hitler's language, correcting grammar, and advising on structure. This gave him extraordinary access to Hitler's private thoughts, habits, and personal resentments at a formative moment. By the late 1920s, Stempfler had become a familiar presence around Munich's nationalist circles and was known to have frequent access to Hitler's apartment at Prinzregentenplatz. He maintained contacts with people inside the household, including those who witnessed or overheard the increasingly strained relationship between Hitler and his niece, or half-niece, Geli Rabaul. After Geli's death in September 1931, Stempfler became a problem. He didn't toe the party line. He privately expressed doubts about the official suicide narrative and reportedly spoke to journalists, fellow clergy, and confidants about the tensions he knew existed in the apartment. He was also in contact, directly or indirectly, with Fritz Gerlich, the anti-Nazi journalist who was actively investigating the circumstances of Geli's death. Whether Stempfler directly supplied information to Gerlich or merely confirmed rumours is not clear, but Hitler and his circle believed he knew too much. And all of this came to a head in June 1934, during the Night of the Long Knives. This purge is often remembered as a strike against Ernst Röhm and the SA leadership, but Hitler used it more broadly as a chance to settle private scores, destroy rivals, and eliminate witnesses to inconvenient truths. Stempfler was arrested by SS men, despite having no political role in the SA and no connection to the alleged plot of Röhm's faction. He was taken to the woods near Harleching, south of Munich. Unlike the formal executions, I use formal inverted commas, carried out against Röhm's subordinates, typically a shot to the chest or the head, or a firing squad of sorts, Stempfler's killing was grotesquely violent. When Stempfler's body was discovered, it bore signs of a prolonged and personal attack. He'd been shot, but the gunshot was not the sole or even primary cause of death. His face and chest were heavily bruised, indicating a severe beating. Several ribs were broken. There were multiple stab wounds, an unusual feature amongst purge victims. His hands showed signs of defensive injuries, suggesting he attempted to fend off his attackers. So this wasn't an execution. This was a beating and mutilation, followed by a killing, a level of savagery that implies rage, vengeance, or an effort to terrorize others who might speak. Indeed, this is personal. So, how did his killing differ from other victims? So, the other victims were killed in one of three ways. There was a formalized execution, shot quickly in a barracks or a cell, a staged confrontation, shot while resisting arrest, or a targeted political killing, but typically by a bullet alone. So, his death stands out sharply. He wasn't an SA leader. He wasn't a political rival. He posed no organizational threat. He was killed far more brutally than the others, and his killing served no purpose whatsoever. Well, at least from a political standpoint. It's only personal. Stempfler's murder cannot be explained by factional politics. His sole crime appears to have been knowing too much about Hitler's private life, particularly concerning Gailey's final year, her emotional desperation, and the explosive quarrels leading to her death. Stempfler's elimination fits a broader pattern. He was one of four men, alongside Gregor Strasser, Fritz Gerlich, and Georg Bell, who had discussed or investigated Lely's death and were later murdered once Hitler had the power to remove inconvenient witnesses permanently. In Stempfler's case, the brutality of the killing sends its own message. This was not a political necessity. This was not a routine purge. And this wasn't a warning to the SA or anyone else for that matter. This was a silencing. Given his closeness to the Rabaul-Hitler relationship, his knowledge of household tensions, and the fact he'd voiced doubts about the official suicide narrative, Stempfler remains one of the most compelling pieces of circumstantial evidence suggesting that Gailey's death was not as Hitler later described it. His murder, carried out with personal ferocity, suggests that he held secrets that Hitler considered intolerable. So thank you very much for listening to this. Of course, this is a theory that Stempfler's death was related to Gailey Rabaul, but I hope that I've presented it in such a way as to suggest that something was not right as far as Hitler was concerned. I upload every day at 2000 hours, and on most days I do a shorts video of up to 3 minutes, but on Tuesdays and Fridays I do a longer documentary style one, such as this one. I've done quite a lot on the death of Gailey Rabaul, and in history my specialization is in the Third Reich, life of Hitler, and above all in the Holocaust. I also offer channel membership, where for £5, €6 or $6 you get access to over 800 videos that are for members only. So for the moment, from me, thanks for listening. Bye for now.